Hi everyone, welcome back to Baking with Miss Manzo. Today we are going to be making a rainbow cake with clouds. The clouds are going to be made out of homemade whipped cream and the cake is going to be rainbow colored. And you're going to take a look on the next screen to see what it is exactly that we'll be making today.
Okay, boys and girls, this is an example of the recipe we are making today, a rainbow cake in the clouds. The rainbow is on the cake. We are going to layer different parts of the batter, different colors, and then you can put homemade whipped cream next to it to represent the clouds. I hope you enjoy.
So you all had an opportunity to see an example of what it is that we'll be making today. Before we wash our hands, I want to go over our food ingredients and then the different cooking materials and supplies so that we can get started. As for the food, we begin with a classic white cake mix. Again, does not matter what brand. This time I'm using Betty Crocker. And you need all of the ingredients that the back of the box calls for. A cup of water, half a cup of vegetable oil, and 3 eggs. So I have all of that here. Then we are going to be making homemade whipped cream, again with heavy whipping cream, which I kept in the refrigerator, powdered sugar, confectioner sugar, and vanilla extract. And that's going to represent our clouds. So the way we'll be doing it, whoops, we have our mixing bowl where we will be mixing our cake mix. Then we are going to be preparing it in something called a bundt pan. Now, if you notice, this bundt pan has a hole in it. So this is the mold. So what it'll do is this, and when we kind of after we cook it, so you will fill the batter in here. After it cooks and cools, you flip it over onto your serving plate and it takes the shape of that. So bundt pans are super cool because they come in all different shapes and sizes. This one is just got a couple bumps in it, but there is that hole in the middle, which is pretty cool. So you don't see it here, but I will be dividing the batter into different sized cups to use food coloring to represent our rainbow. And you'll see the process as we put it in our bundt pan. So as always, before we get started, we need to head over to the sink to wash our hands. So we're at our sink. We're going to wash our hands really nicely. Use lots of soap and water. Go in between your fingers, the tops of your hands, your palms. You want to do a nice job so that you can really get into making this rainbow cake. Hands are clean. We're officially ready to bake. So we saw an example of what the cake is going to look like on our prior screen. We washed our hands, we went over all of the ingredients that we have out. Now we are ready to begin. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to prepare our cake mix. Now, before I do that, we want to preheat our oven so that while we're mixing it up, it is ready to go, the oven. So we are going to be heating this oven now to 350 degrees. It says for shiny metal glass or 325 for a non-stick pan. Now, this is a bundt cake pan, so it's actually the recipe that we are following for our rainbow cake tells us to preheat the oven to 325. So this is a non-stick pan. So I'm going to go do that on the oven now. All right, so while that is preheating, we need to mix. Opening well. We need to mix our cake mix. Okay. So we have the cake mix that we're just going to take out of this box. Remember, we use the box as our garbage. Okay. So the back of this box, the recipe that we're following tells us to follow the back of the box. So we have our cake mix. We have 3 eggs that we're going to crack. We do it individually into the separate ramekin so that if there's any shells, we can easily remove them and it doesn't affect all of the batter. It has a cup of water. So I already measured water in our measuring cup, so I'm going to put that in there. It also calls for a half a cup of vegetable oil. I'll do that. We'll do this before the eggs. Again, we get eye level. Nice. Okay. Now we have our separate ramekin to do our eggs. Got an egg. I got a shell in there. Got him. He wasn't that eggshell was not cooperating. Okay, so that's one. Again, this recipe calls for 3 eggs. 2. That one was a lot better. Then our 3rd. Eggs are in shells. All right. So all of our ingredients are in our mixing bowl, and now we can bring it over to our standalone mixer to mix before putting it in our, separating it into the different colors and all that good stuff. We are putting our mixing bowl, locking it in place, and again, we start slow. We're going to mix that mix up, and we are going to get our batter. So once this is done, we are going to need to separate this batter into different bowls so that we can add the food coloring to the different parts so that we can create our rainbow in the cake. So I think our cake mixture is done. Okay, we're gonna let that drip for a second, and we're gonna just drop that right in the sink, and we're gonna take this mixing bowl over to our workstation to begin separating the batter for the different colors. I'm gonna go head over to the sink with this now. We have our batter all prepared. Now, before we get into separating our batter, we need to prepare our bundt pan. So it tells you to grease it and then flour it. Now we saw this when Miss Gallo was on and we were doing the crumb cake where we, in addition to using our cooking spray, we just sprinkled some flour in there also just so that it prevents it from sticking once it's heated. So I'm going to spray this. You want to do all the sides to make sure that when we go to remove it, it gets out. So that's there. And then I'm just going to take a little flour and sprinkle it in the middle. Again, that along with our cooking spray is going to prevent from sticking. Okay, so now we are ready to push this off to the side and we can start separating our batter. So you're going to see me referring to my recipe here because again, since we are dealing with different colors and we want it to look like a rainbow, we have to be very specific with our measurements. Okay, so we're not going to be estimating this. We're going to be separating different amounts into different bowls and then food coloring. It's a whole process. Okay, so the first part before we start using our food coloring for anything is we are going to take a cup and 1/3 of this batter that's not dyed any color yet, and we're going to put that into our bundt pan. So I'm just going to get a spatula just so that I can use my measuring cup to get it very accurate. Okay. So a cup and 1/3. So that is going to go to about here. I'm going to use this. Again, we're going to do the best we can here. Okay. Now, this is what's going into our already prepared bundt pan. So I'm just going to put it all the way around so it's evenly distributed in the bottom of our pan. Now I'm going to grab that spatula again because we need to make sure that we get the excess out of here. This is base layer. And what we're doing basically is we're creating a rainbow all the way around this bundt pan. So it has to be pretty precise with our measurements just so that we have enough of the batter to make our cake. Okay. So now, before we start using our food coloring, it asks us to take some of the batter, a specific amount, and put it on reserve. That means save it for later. So I'm going to move this. Now you can kind of shimmy it around. Look, see, it's the base, so that's that. So now what I'm going to do, it calls for 2 tablespoons of the non-colored batter and just set it aside for later. So I have my tablespoon. I'm going to just go in here, okay? And I'm just going to put it off into a little ramekin over here for later. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we get to take our specific measurements and we're going to separate them so that they're ready for our food coloring. So I'm going to start now. It says divide the remaining batter into separate bowls. So you want 2 tablespoons of purple, 1/4 cup of blue, 1/3 green, 1/2 yellow, 2/3 orange, and the rest is going to be red. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the large amount and work backwards. So 2/3 of a cup calls for orange. I'm going to use this bowl. And again, it can get a little messy. So I'm going to kind of just get this all in here. I'm going to be going back and forth between the sink. I have a funny feeling because let's get serious here. So I want to use the die as I do this because I'm not going to remember what's in what. You know what I mean? So after I do this, then we're going to get the food coloring and we're going to dye the different bowls the color that it's supposed to be. So 2/3 calls for orange. So now on my package here of food coloring, it gives me a guide of what colors I need to mix in order to get the color we want. So this 2/3 cup is going to be orange. So we're going to be mixing yellow and red. Yellow and red. So again, just be careful when using the food dye because it stains your finger for a little longer than you'd like. So 2/3. So I'm going to do 12 yellow and 4 red. 1, right? 12 and then 4 red, right? Okay. Let's see, this is called Orange Sunset. See how that goes. I have to get a spoon. Actually, maybe I'll get straws. Use the stir here. Let's see. Ooh, so pretty. That's orange. That's looking good. Okay. We're going to come back to that once we need to do the layering. Now we're going to get our half cup and we're going to dye that yellow. I have to tell you, this is my first time making this, so here's hoping this goes well. It looks very cute, I thought, so I figured this would be a great time to try to make it. All right, so we have a half a cup that we are going to dye yellow. So being that we have yellow food coloring, you can put as many drops, similar to when we made our Christmas cookies. You can add as many drops of the food coloring into this batter as you would like. That way, you can decide how yellow you want it. So I don't have to specifically count for that one. Take my stir. This is so cute. So what I'm going to suggest that we do, just to keep it easy for when we start doing the rainbow in the pan, is we're going to use our, what's that called? The Ziploc bag trick, where we take our different batter and put it in the Ziploc bags. So you saw the yellow and orange. So cool. So now we're going to get our third cup, and this is going to be green. So it doesn't matter, whichever size bowls you have is totally fine. Okay. A little tedious, it takes a lot of time. It's not necessarily difficult. It just takes some time to separate the batter, to measure it out, but it's good because you're practicing your math as you're doing this. We're going to get our green, and just like we did with the yellow, since it's already green, you can add as many drops as you would like to dye it green. You can do a light green, dark green, it's entirely up to you. This really green. Green. Now we have our quarter cup that we're going to do blue. Now, we also have blue in here, so same thing. You can add as many drops as you would like. It's a little messy. It's okay. Having fun with food. So again, we love that spatula because it takes out the batter out of our measuring cup very well. Now, we're doing blue. Art class, you're mixing your colors. Ooh, look at this blue. The ocean. So good. There's our blue. Now we're going to do our purple, which we're going to have to combine different colors. But the purple, it only calls for 2 tablespoons. I'm going to use this little one. 2 tablespoons. So the batter is going everywhere, but you know what? Again, it's It's okay, we can clean it later. So we're doing 2 tablespoons of the batter, and then we have to mix our colors to make purple. That. Good stuff. Okay, so that. Now for purple, on my box it tells me 12 red and 8 blue. We have to count them. Eight blue. Alrighty, mix it up. Purple, here we come. So it's a deeper purple, plum. That's okay. Okay, not bad. Then it tells us to dye the rest of the batter red. So again, get this and a couple drops. You don't have to go too crazy because red is red. Oops. This one I'm going to use my spatula. Really get in there. So to me, it's looking a little pink since the batter is like a white. So you may want to add a couple more drops of the red in there. And just keep mixing it. Much better. Much better. Scraping all the sides to make sure we get all of the batter in here all red. Okay, so you have red. So we have all the colors of the rainbow. What we're going to do, just because I want a cleaner surface, I'm going to organize our food coloring and I'm going to drop the dirty things in the sink. So we are coming back with Ziploc bags and we're ready to start piping the different colors on top of our bundt pan. Our surface is cleaner. So we are able to now, we have all of our colors in front of us that we want to put each in their own individual bag. We've done this with icing where we use the glass. We put it in a diagonal. Use your hands since they're clean. Put it on a diagonal and use the outside of the glass. You kind of fold the bag over. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to do this process for every single one of our colors, including the original 2 tablespoons of the plain batter that we put on reserve. So you're going to probably need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 baggies. Okay, so what you're going to do, and I'll start with the red, all right, is we are going to take it just like we've done with the icing, and we're going to put it into, I'm sorry, something's in my eye, the Ziploc baggie here. Okay, and that we're going to be using as our piping bag. Good. So the reason we're doing this is because we want to be as precise as possible when, putting the different batters in the ring, because you're going to be making rings, like circles, where each color will go on the inside of the previous color. And I'll show you that as we go through it. Okay, so now, pretty good. So now once that's empty, we are going to then take it out. Okay, and we know we've been doing this. okay? And we're going to be cutting it on a diagonal once we're ready for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make sure that I'll cut this side once it's ready, because if I cut here, it's going to go at the bottom. What we're going to do now is with the red, I'm going to just snip the corner off of this side, and then we are going to, within the batter that's already there, a little bit from the edge, I'm going to do a ring of this until it's all in this area and empty. Okay, and then we're going to be going and doing the same process with the other batters. So now this is a little liquidy. It might get a little messy. Ready? All right. So you're going to repeat this in with all of the colors that you have. So again, you want to be careful. You're going to take your time going all the way around. Then what you might want to do, just because, if you don't have such a steady hand or whatever, you can get a little knife after and kind of mush it together. So now I'm tracing what I've already done. I'm not going anywhere other than what I've already created. And then that way I have an outer ring of red. And then what'll happen is I'm going to do the same process with the other colors. Right? So that's that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to show you. I can't lift it too much because I don't want it to fall all over. But you can kind of see the ring. Okay? So I'm just going to get a little butter knife to kind of scoot any of the red that got too close to the edge. I gotta say, guys, looking pretty cool. And again, it's not going to be perfect. I mean, to be honest, I teach third grade math, right? Usually, so not a baker. This is just something fun for us to try. And as long as it resembles it, which it will, we're going to be great. So we're going to repeat this process now with the rainbow pattern. So we've all known Roy G. Biv, right? We did red. Next is going to be O for orange. So we are going to put this, we're going to do the same process where we put it in the Ziploc bag, and then we'll do inside the red. And we're going to repeat that process with all of our colors. So I'll do orange, yellow, blue, oh wait, mine, G, green, blue, indigo, and then we're going to take this and put it on top. So again, we did the red, then we're going to do orange, yellow, G for green, B for blue, I for indigo, which is like a purpley color, okay? It's going to be there for purple and violet, for indigo and violet. And then this is going to go on top. All of our colors, you can kind of see it. I don't want to tilt it too much because then all the colors will run. All of them have been in the ring, the rainbow ring, and now we have that 2 tablespoons of the plain batter that we were going to save from earlier. That this is just going to go over the purple part. Okay, so you're not going to put it over the whole top, just the purple ring, which is closest to the inside. So I changed to this one as we had a smaller amount that way, we had it. Trim it, and then I'm just going to go right on top of what I did purple. Okay. So then once that's done, which it is just about done, now we get to put it in the oven, and the recipe calls for it to bake for about 40 to 45 minutes. So we're going to put this in the oven, and as this is cooking, we're going to make our homemade whipped cream, which is going to represent our clouds. So we have about 10 more seconds left on our timer until we get to see if everything is good. Okay, so I'm going to test it with a toothpick. We want to see if the batter comes out, if there's any excess on there. If not, then it's ready to go. See. Okay. So it's completely clean. So I'm going to put both oven mitts on. We're going to pull out the cake. Okay. So we're going to see how this looks. So some of the colors ran together, but it's still going to be a rainbow with our clouds on the side. We want to let this cool before we get into it. Our cake is cooled. If you can tell, there's some colors going on. Now we're going to see what happens when we cut into it, what it looked like. What I would suggest that you do, just even though we sprayed and used foil, I would suggest that you kind of use a butter knife and kind of go around the outside and then around this ring here. That way it kind of just loosens it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to just transfer it to a regular serving plate. Okay. Whoop. Came flying out. Okay. And now what we can do, so look, see how it took the form? It came right out. That was from using the cooking spray and the flour. So it was beautiful. So now what we can do is we can cut a slice, see what it looks like. Oh my gosh, how cute. So, that, hold on. Got our rainbow. And then what you could do is put your clouds here. Now, I did not show you the actual process of making the whipped cream because we've done it before, but it's powdered sugar, vanilla, and you whip it and whip heavy whipping cream. And that's it. So what you could do with your rainbows, your rainbow cake and clouds, you have a slice, and then you can put your clouds right here. And then let's see how it tastes. I think it's gonna be delicious. So good. Anyway, I hope you had fun. Let's see if you can see the inside of that. Look at that. How cool. Anyway, thank you so much for baking with me today. Don't forget to be a food critic at the end, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye.
Welcome to Sunshine Stories. Our book today is How the Crayons Saved the Rainbow, written by Monica Sweeney, illustrated by Feronia Parker Thomas. How the Crayons Saved the Rainbow. The sun and the clouds were best friends. They worked together to keep the earth warm and gardens growing. But of all the things they did together, their very favorite was making rainbows, so the whole world was colorful and happy. Then one day, the sun and the clouds had a big fight. The clouds were blocking the sun, and the sun couldn't shine through to the earth. The sun went sizzle, sizzle, sizzle at the clouds, and the clouds went clap, bang, boom back. They stopped being friends and were never in the sky together again. With the sun and clouds far apart, it was scorching hot on some days and damp and cold on others. And worst of all, there were no more rainbows. Without rainbows, The flowers, streams, and even cities started to lose their color. Soon, the earth was black and white. But in one little town, in one little school, in one little desk, there was one little forgotten box of crayons, and the crayons still had their colors. The desk rattled, shook, clambered, and clanked. All of a sudden, it toppled over, and the box of crayons tumbled out. Ah, I'm naked!
Get off me!
Yippee!
I'm out of here. Woe is me!
Hey, where are all the colors? The crayons started to search for the colors. They raided marker bins and tore through art projects, but everything as far as they could see was only black and white. Who made all the colors go away? This is so sad.
This is terrible.
If oranges aren't orange, do I even exist? What about daffodils and butter? The crayons looked out the window. The sun was all the way to one side of the sky looking angry. And the clouds were all the way to the other looking gloomy. I miss all the colors. We can't even draw rainbows together now. Wait, that's it. We need to save the rainbows. So the crayons started drawing little rainbows all over the town. But nothing happened. The sun and the clouds didn't seem to notice. We have to make our rainbows bigger, Violet said. Working together, the crayons drew and scribbled. They made the biggest, brightest, most colorful rainbow the world had ever seen. Ever so slowly, the sun perked up and the clouds floated in for a closer look. The sun and the clouds both peered down, admiring the giant rainbow that the crayons had drawn.
What bright colors, said the sun.
It's incredible, said the clouds. They looked at each other with great big smiles. The sun said to the clouds, Remember when we used to be together all the time and make rainbows? The clouds nodded. I'm sorry for going clap, bang, boom at you.
I'm sorry for going sizzle, sizzle, sizzle at you, said the sun.
It's better being friends, said the sun. And the clouds agreed. They hugged. The sun shined brightly, and the clouds misted happy rain. Ever so slowly, rainbows reappeared near and far, turning the world colorful once again. Okay, boys and girls, what we're going to do here is this is going to be the final thing that we'll do at the end of every recipe that we create. This is something that kind of rates our recipe. It'll tell you what you thought of what it looks like, how it tastes, what it smells like, texture. You get to be the food critic. Now, what a food critic does is a food critic rates all those different areas of a recipe. You guys are going to be able to be the food critic based on my recipe. Now, if you don't make it on your own, you can imagine what you think it might taste like and smell like and the texture of it. We can just focus on the visual representation then, what it looks like. And then what you can do is on a plate, not a real plate, you can draw a circle to represent your plate. You can draw your recipe. And then there's going to be some questions that I want you to take a look at. 1, would you make the recipe again? 2, if you could change something, what would you change? So these are the things that I want us to focus on at the end of every baking video. So I want you to take a few minutes and copy this down on a piece of paper or do it on a Google slide, anywhere that you want. Great job today. I hope you enjoyed. See you on the next video.